Hello, Internet. Come on in and join the NerdChat. I am joined by my friend Muse from the Court of Owlets Podcast.
Hello.
So, Muse is joining me on my continued series of going through some Golden Age comics, and her request was Captain America. So, where else to start but with Captain America, issue number 1, case number 1. So, anyone who was here 2 weeks ago, you'll know that Joe also came on from the podcast. So, Muse, if you want to go on, for anyone who just joined today, want to talk about the podcast just a little bit, go ahead and tell them a little about what you guys do. We'll move on.
All right. Just to reiterate, I don't know what Joe said last time, but the Court of Owlets Podcast, we are a weekly podcast that talks about newly released comics that have come out or anything else in between, from reviewing movies and some back issues on occasion. So, yeah.
All right. And I've also been on this podcast a few times. They've been kind enough to have me twice. And I was on there a few weeks ago talking about more Golden Age comics, which is where I got the idea to keep doing these. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about Captain America issue 1, case number 1. It's been hard for me to figure out how these things are actually numbered. So I guess that each issue is supposed to have more than one comic inside. But the numbering restarts each time, so I am only covering case number 1 because case number 2 is very hard to follow. But this is Captain America's origin story, and basically, World War II is happening, and America is getting a little worried. So as the ruthless warmongers of Europe focus their eyes on the peace-loving America, America's youth is called to arms to defense of their country. So, fun fact about Captain America. Now, you know that Captain America fought in World War II, right, Muse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a big nerd.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in World War II started in 1993. We know the U.S. didn't get into it right away. They got into it in 1941. And
technically 1942, but that's a technicality. And
yeah, well, no. Yeah, so interesting thing about Captain America, you can see right here on the issue that it's, the USA in 1941. So this came out in March 1st of 1941. And the attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't until December 7th, 1941. So for anyone who doesn't know, Captain America was beating up Nazis before America itself was.
I always found that so baffling. I'm like, why are we having this war propaganda icon when we haven't even joined the war?
Yeah.
At all.
So apparently there was a lot of controversy about that back in the day, where it's like, America's got a lot of nerve making a superhero about fighting the Nazis when they're not even contributing themselves on the front lines. It's not like, the U.S. was doing nothing, but we could have been doing more. And Captain America wasn't going to wait around for us to get our butt in gear.
Nope.
But that's my bit of comic book history for the moment. But as we can see, what we see here is that there are Nazi agents who have infiltrated the American army, trying to attack the country from within. So these spies are trying to basically blow up munitions factories in order to cripple the American defense. So if they ever were to join the actual war effort on the front lines, they wouldn't have, the munitions to keep up. So what we see on the second page, if it will let me flip pages, is they are blowing up all these munitions factories, and a very ugly Nazi is doing such. Now, so these guys, they're these two dudes who are vaguely from the military. They don't say who they are. They're just two dudes who show up to talk to the president of the United States, and they ask him, we need to do something, this Nazi problem is getting worse. They're we have spies in our midst, and we have to do something about it. And President Roosevelt is asking the man, he's like, well, what would you suggest? A character out of the comic books like the Human Torch? Fun fact for anyone who does not know, the original Human Torch is not Johnny Storm. It was an android.
Nope.
So this character was around since the Golden Age. But he's like, yeah, what would you suggest? So someone like the Human Torch? And he's like, but seriously, gentlemen, something is being done.
Doesn't the Human Torch join in with Captain America and Namor later?
He does, yeah.
ironic.
So like at this point, I guess the Human Torch is not real, like in this universe yet, because I'm guessing the point of this at this time was not to put this in the Marvel universe or the Timely Comics universe. This was to, actually help morale of, the oncoming Nazi threat. Because, like, obviously the world is literally at war. People are getting, worried, and they would like to think that America cares. So that's why this whole character is, he's supposed to, people are supposed to, I guess, hope that, someone like Captain America is real. He's out there. He's helping. He's doing something. So these other fantastical characters, like an android who sets on fire, not exactly something that we can believe in. But naturally, all these characters do end up working together later as like a proto Avengers. The president is saying, he's like, all right, well, we are actually working on something, but I haven't wanted to tell anyone about it yet until we had some like actual real results. So he has to send in Mr. Grover, who is the head of the FBI. So Mr. Grover comes in, and he like takes these men from whatever military branch they are a part of, dresses them in civilian clothes, and he like takes them like through this back alley entrance out of wherever they were, which I assumed was the White House, but I guess not. And he like takes them in this car to this neighborhood, and so this is like, what you would expect out of like, S.H.I.E.L.D., where they have like this front of, it's just like a regular shop, but there's actually like a hidden back door. So they go into this shop. This old woman like goes to pull a gun on him, but recognizes that the head of the FBI is here. Like, oh, cool.
Oh my God, I recognize her. She was actually in the Captain America movie.
Well, yes, she is.
Oh my
hold
God.
on. So she puts the gun away, and she's like, oh, yes, come on. We actually do have real results. The formula has been found. So this is the first official test of this formula, whatever it is. So they go into this back room, and then we start to see that as they like look out into this like really modern laboratory, this woman like peels her face off, and she's actually X-13, one of the most trusted agents of the FBI. So she's actually like, what you expect, like, Peggy Carter or Agent 13 to be back in these days. So they, so they all sit down and like, all right, the test is about to begin, and now we can actually see what all this secrecy is about. And we see, they don't actually say his name yet, but we know that this is Steve Rogers. Most people at some point in their lives have seen this panel. A very, very scrawny looking man who was too weak to serve his country has volunteered to be a test subject for this. So this doctor takes his, or this professor, whatever they call him in this, he takes the syringe, injects it into Steve, and in a matter of moments, they're all amazed as he starts to kind of like glow a little bit and grows in, 3 times his size to be the peak of like, the human condition. So the doctor explains that what is happening is that like all of his cells are changing to be not just make him stronger, but to make him smarter, so that he is at the peak of human physical and mental like form. This is as good as people can ever be. And then, so these, as they're like looking on in amazement, the doctor like asks him like, how you doing? Like making sure that it's working. And he says that this man will be known as Captain America, the very first of his corps of super agents, those whose mental and physical capabilities will make them a terror for spies and saboteurs. And that the whole point is to safeguard their shores, not exactly to send him overseas, but that's because they're not fighting overseas yet. But there's a spy in our midst. This man in his purple jacket pulls a gun. He's actually a Nazi spy working for Hitler himself. He pulls a gun and he says, "Death to the dogs of democracy," and shoots the professor, Reinstein, whatever his name is. Shoots him, catches him, and then the dude also shoots, the spy also shoots the rest of the serum. So we can't ever have another Captain America because no one else has figured out the serum before. So The dude also shoots Mr. Grover, head of the FBI dude. Agent 13 tries to help, but Captain America like leaps at him, and he gets like terrified, and he just starts like firing like a madman. And Cap just like pulls him through the glass and just beats the crap out of him.
I love the expression he uses. He calls him a skunk.
He does call him a skunk. Yeah, come on out, you skunk. I forgot I wrote that down. I didn't read it. That was one of my favorite parts. And then, just like the Golden Age Batman comics, something happens. And he falls into this like lab equipment. He becomes like wrapped in power coils, and he just gets electrocuted. Like he just electrocuted and burned to a crisp. And then Cap says, "Nothing left of him but ash, but charged ashes.
Gosh.
A fate he well deserved." And also, obviously, this is an artistic error, but you know he was shirtless in the last page,
Yep.
right? And you can see that he has blue on.
Yep, he's already got the blue on.
That to me says this dude died. He was like, I think I'm gonna take a minute to get dressed before I look at how fucking disgraceful this man is. Fate well deserved. I mean, he's a Nazi. I don't exactly have sympathy for him.
No, but the lack of the lack of just any kind of like, oh snap, I killed a man, was just gone. No.
Yeah, it's just no care, no forgiveness, no pity. It's just like, that man's dead, just like he should be. Because that's exactly what happens in like the Batman comics too.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was that dude who fell in like to the vat of acid, and Batman just like, well, fitting fate for scum like him.
And I love,
oh Jesus.
I love how in the Batman comics and in this one, and probably even in Superman, I don't know what, just the fact that these seem to all be accidental deaths, like they're caused by the heroes, but they're indirectly. So it's not, you can't blame them for the death. It's like, oops, they fell into the thing and got electrocuted, or they fell into the vat. You're like,
they very much don't want to show murder, but nothing wrong with a little bit of manslaughter here and there.
Actual characters dying is fine. It's the fact that these characters can't actually kill the people they're going against.
Yeah,
like,
that's where they have to draw the
directly.
line. Yeah, so now we see literally, no transition. Steve is Captain America. He's out in the world being Captain America, doing what he does. People are starting to read about him. He's like showing up in papers. He's become a symbol of courage to millions of Americans. But at the bottom of this page, we see a young Bucky Barnes, who is a mascot of the regiment, of whatever regiment they're at this, base camp for wherever they are. No specific information on anything.
It says it's Camp Lay. Or Lee.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it's Camp Lee.
They do say Camp Lay. So I must have just missed that when I wrote it down. But yeah, so it doesn't say the regiment. I think that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, so it doesn't say whatever regiment.
Oh, no, it doesn't say the regiment number, no.
So that's probably what I meant when I wrote that down. But anyway, so Bucky Barnes is, the mascot of this regiment, which, so I'm not exactly a World War II fanatic.
I am.
But I do know that, regiments had mascots. Most of the time they were animals. Did they ever have children?
I don't think they did, because that would be probably worse than child labor, and we already had child labor laws put in place because of the Industrial Revolution. I don't know if at this time, but I know in later comics they expand on Bucky's backstory and him being like the son of one of the soldiers, and that's why he's kind of there.
Yeah, I know that they've tried to retcon whatever reason he's there, but like,
I think Camp Lee or Lay or whatever it is supposed to be like a stateside camp, so it's a training camp. So this kid's like, he's an army brat. He's just an army brat who's on base with his dad. So he's just running around being like, watching these guys train.
Yeah, and like, that's a fine description, but they literally call him a mascot. Like, he's here to like boost morale of people in training. Like, okay. But anyway, so he sees, Steve Rogers, and he's like, Steve, look at this Captain America. He's been going around doing whatever. He like shows him the paper, and he's like, boy, golly, would I love to meet Captain America one day. And Steve's just like, maybe you can one day, Bucky. Maybe you can. And then literally no time passes. And like that night or whatever, Bucky is going to talk to Steve about something. He opens up the tent, doesn't even remotely check to see if he might be naked, which he is changing. And he's just like, oh no, Bucky's figured me out. So he's like, hey Steve, I came down. He's like, what? You're Captain America. And Steve says, you little rascal, I ought to tan your eye.
Oh God.
But I guess you got me dead to rights. I am Captain America. And Bucky, just like, basically a Marvel equivalent to, Golden Age Robin. Gosh, gee whiz golly, I never thought.
So 40s.
It's so 40s. So, yeah, he basically Steve's like, well, in order to keep my secret, I guess you're going to have to be my partner, Bucky. So he just makes this boy his partner, and now he goes off to fight Nazis with a child. So yeah, that's Bucky's dream is fulfilled. He gets to fight alongside Captain America. His dream, I can imagine, only had for about 45 seconds. And then at the bottom, it's all kinds of stuff about, like, subscribing to timely publications in order to get the next issue of Captain America, and how to become, part of America's Sentinels of Liberty. So it's like their, like, fan club and whatnot. So just things to, show support and look forward to the next issue of Captain America. And so this is
give kids
the
hope.
first 8 pages. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. That is...
That's Captain America.
To be honest, I felt this one flowed a bit better than the Batman one. That one just jumped all over the place. Granted,
Batman one was insane.
Granted, there are some cuts in this, but
yeah,
there's at least a progression instead of, I'm talking to Gordon over here, and all of a sudden here we are at the crime scene, and now we're back and you're like, okay, can we slow down just a bit?
Yeah.
But I understand the limit.
With
on
the
pages.
Batman one, they tried to make you, like, care about every character. Every character on screen had a first and last name.
Yep.
Everyone, well, except for the guy who died.
Yes.
And his son. They did not have a first name. All the murder suspects had a first name. But for this, you only had to care about a few people, and like some of them were like obvious, like who you were supposed to know, like who the president of the United States is at this time, and then like you don't need to really know, but it's like, okay, there's a head of the FBI. I know what the FBI is. Everyone knows what the FBI is. Yep. So it's like, this guy's the head of that, and then it's like, okay, we have a secret agent who doesn't even have an actual name. Don't need to worry about that too much. And then like everyone else dies except for Captain America and Bucky. It's like, all right. You don't need to learn too much. Whereas that one, it's just like, well, we have Bruce Wayne here, who we're not telling you is Batman. We have Commissioner Gordon, who brings just teenagers to the scene of crimes. 5 murder suspects and a whole bunch of other people that you're like supposed to keep track of. They added in a butler to like be an extra threat to one of the murder suspects, like out of nowhere. Like they just kept throwing names at you. And that comic was 6 pages long. This one was 8 pages long.
Yeah. Though I don't know what's worse. Commissioner Gordon letting a teenager come to a crime scene, or Captain America taking a kid to war. I probably am more on Cap taking a kid to war.
I think it's more on Cap taking.
But it's like, what's more elite? Like this kid, I never understood why Bucky was a kid. Granted, I understand. Hey, we gotta have a plucky sidekick for the kids to.
I mean, it's the same reason that Batman has Robin. It's just to give the kids something to project themselves onto. Because Batman has, historically sold worse without a Robin up until, our more modern age of comics.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's because most people who buy comics are kids. Mm-hmm. So without Robin, people started being less interested. Like Teen Titans was selling so much better than Batman because Robin was there, and they were trying to have Robin spend less time in the Batman comics, which is why we got Jason Todd. And then a bunch of people hated Jason Todd and did everything they could to get rid of him, and then
they did.
We all know how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, maybe we should have Robins. Let's try again.
And then
with a little bit of Tim Drake.
Yep.
Your boy.
My boy.
All right, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So Muse, if you want to just one more time, what is it that you and your friends do over at the podcast?
So at Court of Owlets Podcast, we talk about weekly comics. So a little different than what Josh is doing over here.
And where can they find you?
You can find us at Twitter and Instagram on Court of Owlets. I think it's just Court of Owlets. I don't have my sheet up.
It's all right. There will also be links in the description below.
Okay. And yeah, I'm not going to list it out how Joe usually does. So we're just going to go with the basic social media.
That's all right. I promote you guys pretty regularly, and yeah, like I said, there'll be links in the description below. I'd put them up on the screen if YouTube would still let me, but they decided how this all worked, or they changed how all this works, which is infuriating because I can't put my Twitch up anymore either.
Oh, that's obnoxious.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, and for anyone who's here from me, thanks for popping by. Thanks for watching. So next week will be another issue of Spider-Man and Wolverine. And then I'll be doing another Golden Age comic with Golden Age comic with a guest after that. And then the week after that will be the last issue of that Spider-Man Wolverine story. And then also follow me on Twitch, join my Discord. There'll be links for all these and below. So that's all we got for today. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.